Good morning. Steve, first of all, I would just like to ask you your reaction to the news that Diego Maradona died yesterday.
Well, somebody is the same age as myself, near enough. And of course, he played in the era that I played in. And we don't get the footage of every game of what we see today. But certainly whenever he was on the TV, any game he was involved in, then I'd tune in just to watch him. He was that good. I think if you ask anybody of the top players ever, certainly over the last few decades, certainly the top five, then certainly Diego Maradona, Pele, Ronaldo, Messi, he comes in the same breath. And some would say, maybe in Argentina especially, that Diego was better than anybody. So it's a sadness that we've lost a great footballer. But when you say 3 days of mourning, it's quite remarkable. 3 days of mourning for a football player just goes to show what they think of in his home country.
Do you think that he was the greatest player ever, especially considering the era he played in, how tough the game was and the kind of tackling?
When you look at just little things like pitches, you look at the pitches he played on, even the great goal he scored against England. I mean, a lot of the players who I spoke to, the pitch was an absolute tip that day. Awful for a quarter-final of a World Cup. And to do what he did, and then back it up against Belgium as well, where I thought he was even better than he was against England. When people would have a kick at him, when you see the abuse at times that he was taking, I mean, it's quite remarkable how the game has changed differently. So you would have to say he's arguably, for me, he's him or Pele are the greatest players. I didn't see an awful lot of Pele, but certainly in Maradona, certainly in my lifetime, in my career anyway, Maradona is certainly the best.
Turning to the Premier League now, we've obviously had the news that fans are going to be coming back to grounds. How much of a difference do you think that will make? Do you think having 2,000 or 4,000 fans in a stadium will make a difference to the players?
Look, I can understand 4,000 fans if there's an 8,000-seater stadium. What I can't quite digest at the moment is why only 4,000 or 2,000 when we've got the capacity to comfortably, I would think, put somewhere in the region of 15 to 20,000 people in. So we all know how difficult life is for everybody at the moment. So look, it's a step in the right direction. It's a small gesture, but I suppose for the smaller clubs anyway, 4,000 or 2,000 is welcome relief because they live off them sort of things. So small numbers, but it's a step in the right direction.
What is the latest news on Callum Wilson? Do you think he'll be fit to play against Crystal Palace?
Yeah, as we speak now, he'll be fit. He's trained all week. We didn't think we could risk him, so he will be available, which obviously we're delighted about.
How much of a difference could he potentially make if he plays?
Well, already he's made a difference. He's got 6 goals already in 8 games in the Premier League. He didn't play last week, so we're delighted of his return. We have got 1 or 2 other niggles, and we've got 1 or 2 problems with COVID, so we have to manage that as well. But we're delighted to see Callum back.
You just mentioned other problems that you've got with injuries and COVID. What are those problems at the moment?
Well, COVID's one problem that we have to manage, and I don't really want to go into with individuals with that. I think we'll have to respect that. And we've got 1 or 2 niggles, but touch wood, we're in a good place. We're in a good place. When everybody's finding it difficult, we're in a decent place with injuries we've got at the moment.
And Selhurst Park is obviously never an easy ground to go to. What do you make of the job that Roy Hodgson has been doing at Crystal Palace?
Well, look, Roy hugely respected by us all for what he's done and what he's achieved, and it's no coincidence that he's still, you know, performing the way he is. And certainly when you go to Crystal Palace now, they're a very, very decent side. They've got good players, like most of the Premier League. But in Roy, it's for what he's done and what he's achieved over his career. Then I'm delighted for him because I don't think I'll be going when I'm 70 odd, but fair play to him. He's still got the enthusiasm for it, and certainly when you catch up with him, he's certainly got that enthusiasm. He's got bundles of it still, which is typical of him.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carver. Going to Rebecca at PLP. Morning, Rebecca.
Morning. Sorry. Hi, Steve.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, just Diego Maradona following up. Do you think that we'll ever see another like him again?
Well, some would say Messi was the closest thing. I think if you had a poll in Argentina, I think Maradona would probably win it hands down. Will we ever? We certainly hope so. We're all striving as a country to produce a superstar, but they don't come along when you're that good very often. And when you talk about the best players ever, then certainly, in most people's eyes, Maradona would be up there. I mean, he was quite remarkable. Played in the era where the kick-ins he used to get and the tackles, and I think that's what made him the great player too. He wasn't just an individual; he was a great team player too. What he did at Napoli and galvanised the city of Napoli and Naples as a club was just, back in the day, was quite remarkable. I don't think anybody would have been able to have the same impact as Maradona did.
And then turning our attentions back to Premier League again. Look, it's been a tough few weeks in terms of results. I just wondered how team confidence was and how training's been this week.
Yeah, it's been tough. Look, Southampton, well, last 3 games, the team who we played against could have gone top of the league. So that's sometimes the way it falls. And make no mistake, in the last couple in particular, against Southampton and Chelsea, we found it difficult. We haven't played well enough. So we accept that and move on. That's the way it is. That's the Premier League. You've got to go with it and take the punches that come along. And certainly we had a difficult couple of weeks. However, we've got another game Friday and then next week. So it's important that we show that resilience that we've shown over the last 16, 18 months since I've been here, and go with it and try and get a result again.
Steve, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Tulip, Look North.
Morning, Steve.
Morning, Mark.
Can I just ask one very brief Maradona question? I think slightly different angle. If Maradona was playing today on, say, St James's Park's magnificent pitch, how would he get on with referees being tougher on some of those tackles and the beautiful pitches we've got today?
Well, you can hardly tackle anybody anymore, Mark. That's the difficulty when you're playing against the top teams or the top individuals. Back in the day, you used to probably man mark them, and back in the day, the first challenge for a defender used to always be a given. So there's no such thing probably as a yellow card in your first challenge, and that's for me what made him so great. I mean, how would he have been on the pitches today? The way the referees are, and he could only say that he would have been probably untouchable, and he practically was in his day.
In terms of back to the Premier League, a chance at Crystal Palace to perhaps turn round recent performances and get back to what you did against the likes of Everton.
Yeah, I mean, look, Mark, we've had a difficult couple of weeks. We've played against a very good Southampton team, and of course a top Chelsea team, and in both games we've conceded in the first 10 minutes. So we've got to give ourselves a better platform than that. But we have to accept that we didn't play well enough and admit that, and that's the Premier League. That's the difficulty of it. In them particular games, both teams to beat us go top of the league. So they're in a rich vein of form. We have found it difficult, and you're right. Crystal Palace is an ideal opportunity to try and bounce back and put in a performance like we did against Everton, which was only 3 weeks ago, by the way.
And Roy Hodgson at, I think, 73. I mean, still a very wily operator at this level, isn't he?
Look, Roy. You don't be in it that long without being a good operator. And the one thing about it, of course, when you get older, is the enthusiasm. The thought of it shudders through me at 73 to think, would I be still on a touchline then? I somehow doubt it, but I've got the hugest respect. He's had a wonderful, wonderful career, and a top-class man at that.
You mentioned that you might have to change personnel or formation. When you've got problems with COVID and you've got problems with injuries, sometimes decisions are forced on you. Can that sometimes work to your advantage?
I think you'd rather have it the other way, Mark, if I'm being brutally honest, and have your team playing well, no injuries, team picks itself, blah, blah, blah. We all know the script of that. Look, we have to manage the situation. It's difficult out there. We have got, 2-3 individuals in the training ground at the moment who are self-isolating. So all of that is a difficult part to manage, everybody concerned. And a couple of injuries is normal, but we're not as bad as most. When I see other clubs and the situation they're in, then, certainly in terms of injuries anyway, we're okay. We're getting a few back. We've got John Joe back, and we've got Matt Ritchie back, and we've got Callum Wilson back. They can only be positives. So the negatives, of course, are managing this awful virus, which unfortunately sneaks upon us all.
And in an ideal world, when some fans do come back, you really want to be flying, don't you?
Well, look, if we ever need reminding of, I watch the games as much as anybody else does. It's not the same spectacle than what it is with a full atmosphere, full crowd. And certainly a little bit of crowd will hopefully make a difference, but a little bit's better than nothing.
Good luck, Steve. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. And Sam LaRoque, ITV Tyne Tees.
Hi, Steve. Just one really. We don't know yet as we sit here what tiers different areas of the country are going to get put in, but there is obviously that potential for a circumstance where some teams will be allowed fans in and some teams won't. Now, it's awkward, but are you more of a...
I think that's unfair. I really think that's unfair. I think that's an unfair advantage. Look, I'm all for it. The smaller clubs getting some sort of income. In terms of income, there's no real, it's here or there with 4,000 fans in St James's or 2,000. But for a club down the road like Hartlepool or Darlington or whatever, then that's huge to them. So, but the tier system will just have to wait. What time is it? 11:30 this morning. It's announced that we hope we're not in tier 3. That's for sure. And accept that it looks as if we're tier 2 at best.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks, broadcasters. If you can leave the call now, please. Written titles will be with you in just a moment. Thank you.